All right, so right now we are going to go through how to send projects to the Cricut Maker machine, as well as layering projects, assembling them, and things to that nature. So we are already here in our USI account, and we're just going to go up here to My Projects, and we will filter into the RA Practice Assignments. This is where you'll find anything you've worked on in terms of the things you'll be making for the graded portion. So we're going to go to this one right here. This is actually from the tutorial video you may have watched earlier, and we're going to go into Customize so that we can look at some things a little closer. And as you can see, I've added a few extra things. I have some other door decks that I made, additional Pokemon figures for the other area coordinators. We are actually just going to be focusing on these three right here. So for that reason, we're going to get rid of these so that they don't show up when we go to print them. You may think, oh, just delete them or something like that. But actually, if we just want to only print certain things, the best way to do that so that we don't actually lose the work we've made is we will click on whatever grouping or item that we don't want to cut out. And then we will go over to our layers panel here on the right. And at the top of the grouping or the attachment, you will click on the little eyeball icon, and then you will see that will go ahead and mark out or hide all of the items in that project. And now it is no longer on our canvas. And we'll do the same thing with this one as well. So there you can see that makes it so the items still exist. However, when we go to make it, they will not actually be cut out. So that can be useful, especially if you have a lot of things in a certain canvas project. So we will go ahead and go to make it. You'll want to double check that you have everything in the sizes you want. I actually did scale these up. This was originally 5 inches. So for door decks, you know, I think minimum would be 5 inches. But generally, if you want to go a little bigger than that, that's usually helpful. We may scale this one down just a bit. All right, and then we will go to make it up in the top right. Now, as you can see here on our left side, we have all the different mats. So this is going to tell us how much of each color that we need. So we're using cardstock. When you get into this, you want to make sure that your material load type is on matte. So we are not using smart materials for vinyl or things like that when we're doing door decks, or letters for bulletin boards or stuff of that nature. You also want to make sure it is set to 12 by 12. Unless you are using the 8.5 by 11 cardstock, because we will have 12 by 12 cardstock, but we will also have letter sized. So if you do need something letter sized, you can drop down this menu and go to the 8.5 by 11. But for now, we're just going to stay on the 12 by 12. And then as you can see here, these are color coordinated. So 2, 3, and 4 are all sheets of black. Something that is also helpful as you're going through these is to try and be a little more conservative with your paper usage. So for instance, you can go to one of these pages, since they're all black. You can go up to the top left right here, move object, and we're going to move it to the page before. And then that makes it so we can get 2 cuts out of 1 page and just be a little bit more eco-friendly, I guess, and not use as much paper. So I will adjust these so that we can get the most out of our paper, and then we will come back to move on further. So let me just adjust these first. Alright, so we have arranged all the mats the way we want them. We've been conservative with our paper usage, and now we are ready to send things to the machine. So you'll hit the continue button, and then it should be connecting to your Cricut Maker once you turn the power on and have it plugged in via the USB cord. So you'll just hit the power button right here. That's going to get things going for you. Alrighty. And then the other thing we're going to go ahead and do, because we do have door decks that have writing on them, so we're writing the names on them, we will want to go ahead and use our cartridge A. Generally, you're not going to do anything with cartridge B, you're just going to leave it as it is, but cartridge A is where we put pins for writing. And so as you can see here, I have a Cricut silver pen. We will tell you guys more as we know about what kind of pens we will be using, but we will just, as you see, I just clicked it in there, and then I'll want to make sure that I secure it by latching that. And so for our first sheet, you'll want to follow them in order. As you can kind of see on the computer over here, they're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. So we'll start with sheet number 1. And for materials, you'll want to select what it is. Generally, you're going to be using a medium cardstock or the 80-pound 216. And you want to leave it on default pressure. You'll be using a fine point blade, which is what our Cricut machines come with. And now we will take our mat. So the mats go, you see this little triangle cut out here, that goes towards the machine, not away from the machine. For our first page, we are doing white. So I'm just going to take the white sheet of cardstock and I'm going to lay it down. Try to get it in the lines as best you can, but generally it's okay if it's a little bit off. Make sure you're smoothing it out really well. As you can see, I'm using a blue mat or a light grip. That should usually be fine for cardstock. You can also use a standard grip, which would be the green mat. Generally, you're not going to want to use the purple though. So we will go ahead and load it. So as you can see, this blinking light right here, that is the load and unload button. It's going to load it into the machine. And then the little light on it is going to scan and double check that this is in fact a 12 by 12 Cricut mat. And then once it's done that, the button right here will blink. That is your go button, and it will start the cut. All right, and then I'm going to let this cut. All right, and I just hit the unload button here to get it back out of the machine. But as you can see, if you kind of pull this off, most of your pieces will stay stuck to the mat. And you'll just want to take them all off and put these aside. Generally, what's going to be helpful to other people is if you go ahead and trim this and then put it in some kind of scrap pile. Okay, and now I have started it onto the next mat, which was the black cardstock. As you can see here, it is starting with the pen function, so it is writing out the letters using the Cricut pen. And then once it finishes with that, it will automatically shift over to the B cartridge to cut it with the fine point blade. And then I will show you when it gets off the machine. And as you can see here, I have the backgrounds for all the door decks created with the letters written on them. And then I've also started piling the pieces for each color into the correct door deck as I'm continuing to cut some of the other layers. Again, you'll just go through as the Cricut has it outlined for you, following the numbers using the correct colored cardstock. And then we will assemble those once we have all the pieces. Okay, so now that all the pieces are cut, we can start to assemble. And as you are assembling, it is going to be helpful to refer back to your Cricut Design Space canvas. So you can just exit out of the cutting area and go back to this page so you can see you know, exactly where your pieces and colors are supposed to align. Generally, you're going to want to use just an Elmer's glue stick. You can also use a liquid glue. However, for cardstock and paper, generally to avoid bubbling or rippling, you'll want to use the glue stick.